going on, y'all? So, Fishman Fluence modern humbuckers in a Schecter C1. We have done a video, just a quick vlog about installing them, but let's talk about active pickups today. So we're going to talk about the difference between these and EMGs. We are going to talk about why they're constructed the way they are and the resulting tone, and we're gonna give a set away, so stay tuned. Alright, so first of all, let's talk about Fishman Fluence versus basically any other pickup. If you watch the video, we'll put a link to it up here where we cut a Fishman Fluence single coil in half. You can see printed circuit boards that have coils on them, and what it's very difficult to picture in some of these videos is that there is also a preamp that is built into the pickup itself. It does not have an external preamp that lives somewhere in the guitar. It's actually in the pickup. That's very important when we start to talk about why this thing is made the way it is. What's really cool about Fishman Fluence, though, is it's as I'm playing this thing, I'm realizing it's not. It is an active pickup, but it's not like an EMG. It's a lot. I would say it's like a cross between an EMG and a regular passive pickup in tone. It's a lot smoother, and what's really cool about it, you hear people talk about like EMGs being like you put them in any guitar and they all sound the same, or the sound is always the same tone out of an EMG. This is not so much like that. It's got a little bit more dimension to it because of what they can do, how they select various coils in this stack. It's pretty cool. So, and if you want to get into the specifics of the construction of that coil stack, you can go watch that other video because we cut it in half and look at it pretty in depth. So, just thinking about the function of this thing, the first thing I want to show you with totally clean tone is that it has this high frequency step where you can switch it. So, let's just go totally clean, normal Fender Super Reverb profile I always use. High frequency shift. So, a lot of active pickups have this really kind of brittly top end, and you can kind of hear that here. But that high frequency shift sweetens it up a lot. The intention is that if you're adding capacitance down the line with a really long cable or something else in your signal chain, that you can brighten up the guitar. But I actually like it when you actually take that brightness away a little bit and give it kind of that sweeter top end. It gives it a more conventional pickup tone, and be able to switch around. I really like that. So that high frequency shift is something that you can't do with a conventional pickup, which is really kind of cool. This pickup construction gives you that flexibility, which I really like, especially when you're talking about a higher gain pickup that you want to use for other things than just like being shreddy. Like, I'm not a shredder, but I do like a hot pickup, but I want to be able to be flexible with it. I think that's really, really cool. And then it also has a second voice. So here is that same pickup, neck pickup, just as we were playing it just a minute ago. This is with no high frequency tilt, just normal. Now we have a second voice in this pickup too, with this other knob. Now that really sounds like a super hot active pickup to me. Super edgy. Now what if we were to bring that sweetness back a little bit, halfway in between? That's pretty cool. Alright, what's this thing actually made for? Let's switch over to a Fishman brown eye profile with a long delay and like some proper high gain. Bet we can get some killer pinch harmonics pretty easy. Okay, so comparing this to a EMG, you probably heard it's not as tight. It really is like halfway between. It's more conventional pickup sounding, even though it is an active pickup and it does have those characteristics. One of the things I think is super cool about this pickup is to be able to have more control over the output, to be able to have a few sounds available. And what you're actually doing is you're playing with the output of the pickup and you're playing with basically the resonant peak of the pickup. So you're actually changing the tone of the pickup as you go, which you can't really do with a conventional coil. I mean, you could coil split, you could coil tap, you could do some other stuff like that. But to be able to actually physically change the size of the coil in different ways that you cannot do with a conventional coil is pretty cool. So one of the questions that I get all the time in the inbox when we start talking about active stuff is, first of all, why, for instance, does it have a 25K pot in it as in comparison to like a 250 or a 500? I thought you were supposed to have 500K pots with humbuckers. That's because of the construction of this thing. There is a preamp built in to this, which means that it has a lower impedance output than a regular guitar. You're going to say, well, wait a minute. It's a high output pickup. I thought high impedance pickups were high output. There is a difference between impedance and resistance. Resistance is basically the voltage drop across a wire. So when you check DC resistance with a meter, literally what you're doing is you're hooking up the meter to it, and the 9-volt battery in the meter is putting a voltage through whatever you're checking, and it's measuring the voltage on where it's checking it on one side versus the other, and it's giving you a voltage drop and then figuring out how much resistance to the known voltage that it has introduced. That's what you do when you check the DC resistance of a pickup, which, you know, might be 10K or 15K or something like that. Impedance is an AC measurement. It is not a DC measurement. It's an AC measurement. And we're using or making AC voltage with a guitar pickup. It is not a DC voltage, it's an AC voltage. That's why DC resistance to a pickup is only one part of how the thing makes sound and one part of how you measure it. So impedance is a collection of a few different measurements put through an equation, is the easiest way to say it. So the DC resistance of the circuit, the capacitance of the circuit, the inductance of the circuit, and it's also measured at different frequencies. The impedance can change based on what frequency is going through it. The long and the short of it is, this is a low impedance output that goes out to the output jack because there is an amp in here, more or less. So if you were to put, across the positive and negative poles of this pickup right here, you might only measure 600 ohms, something like that, instead of like 6K or 10K, which is 1,000 ohms, like 10,000 ohms, right? You might only measure 600, 800, something like that, because that is an internal circuit that's putting in a low impedance output. Now, does that mean that it's not putting out a good voltage? No, because that's what the amp is doing. It's actually boosting the voltage. That's why they're so powerful. But it's a low impedance output. So that's why you can't measure the value of an active pickup just by putting a meter on it, because there's an amp in there before that. So here's the weird part. We still have to be able to control the volume. So let's say now, if you measure this, you only have a few hundred ohms coming out of this thing, and you were to put a 250K pot in front of it. As soon as you twitched that pot off of 10, it would just shut the pickup off. So the pot has to be a proportion of whatever the output of the pickup is, resistance-wise. So 25K is it. That's how it's measured. And that's how they choose them. So some pickups, I want to say Seymour Duncan Blackouts maybe they have like a 50K pot. It's all based on the output impedance of this pickup. Again, that's different than DC resistance of a particular length of wire, which is all you're really measuring in a coil when you're checking in resistance of a pickup. I know that there's probably like tons of details I'm leaving out and probably not giving you a full explanation of low impedance versus high impedance, but then you'd get into differential amplifiers. You would get into how this thing takes the signal from the coil and runs it through the amplifier, and honestly I don't know, because that part I can't see. EMGs, you can actually find an internal schematic for them, so, but Fishman's you can't. So I don't know. There is some stuff I don't know. I just know the general theory of it, because you can't, I don't know inside there. I can't see it. So that being said, I tell you what, if you comment on this video, you have to be a subscriber, and you have to also be entered to win this guitar at DylanContest.com, and make a comment in the comments of this video, and I will give you, maybe, if we draw your name, your own set of Fishman Fluence pickups, brought to you by everybody over on Patreon who makes this possible. So the money that comes in from Patreon is what I use to buy this stuff. The funny thing is, I bought this set to give away, and then the owner of this guitar is like, I'll give you some more money so you can leave those in there, I want to keep them. So I'm actually buying a new set that you're going to get unopened in the box, not this set used out of a guitar. So that's pretty cool. We also have a couple other giveaways coming too. EMG, Zach Wilds, some guitar stands, some other stuff coming. So make sure you're subscribed. Go to DylanContest.com to enter to win this stuff, and make sure that you comment on this video. And over the next few days, it's going to be random. So over the next few days, I'm going to pick somebody to win this set of pickups and get in contact with you and send them to you. Anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter. Anywhere in the world. Thanks for hanging out. I guess we'll see you Monday.